Introduce us right here, like what the title of this video.
Oh, the title of the video is Eros and Agape. Two Greek words. Eros means desire or love, but in the sense of an erotic love, a very fleshy love that is after something physical or physiological or something particular, and it's a sense of desire as a lack and a need for what is lacked. And agape is a love which lacks nothing, a love which is already whole, and so is offered unconditionally without the expectation of any return. And I think some conversation we were having earlier has sparked from these two different forms of love.
And desire was, I think, the trigger word. And I asked Phil if desire is something that you might view as a negative kind of thing, or something that is not true love, or if you were the God, why would you put yourself ever in the position to experience lack or desire? I just don't know. I don't understand how that would work, or at least I'm curious to the possible solutions you have for that question, or the answers that you might propose as reasonable, or to fit the kind of the question I'm proposing here. If you were a God, if you were not a God, you were God, and it's true that desire and Eros is this aspect of yourself that might be driving evolution on both sides of the street. If it's true that Eros is pulling, it's giving you this urge feel, or maybe it's just desire, or separate from Eros. If these things are true, which I think most people can relate to this, they feel desires, they feel urges, their bodies, they feel these things that they feel they're lacking, right? I mean, the human male or female seems to be an expression of lack. You're half of something, and there's always this pull towards completing a whole. Even if it's not just the gender, it could transcend gender, and masculine might call for feminine, and they might dance and switch, but there's a lack.
Because there's males and females, so it's like the male lacks what the female has, and the female lacks what the male has, and so there's that
in a sense
constant need for one for the other.
I think it does transcend though, and just gender,
right.
Because you can see it in people. They feel the need to be a part of this whole. So Phil, if it's true that you're God, why would you allow desire, in the sense of I lack something, to happen?
Right, and I think this really relates to the underlying metaphysical, we could call them frameworks, theologies, some of them. We talked about how the Big Bang came out of a disequilibrium, right?
Yeah.
And the greater narrative implications of Eros, that perhaps, there's the Platonic, we were divided, this is written in part of the symposium, we're divided and we're trying to come together, because that we're all, you know it more than I, the story of Sophia and
God the Father, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Even in Psalms in the Bible, wisdom or Sophia talks of being with God before the creation. So there's this idea, even in the Judeo-Christian tradition, of a male-female pairing being responsible for creating the world.
And I think then where I then come down on this is that if we think of the concept of deep love, unconditional love, it's a radiance, and I like this concept of radiance. If we think about the sun radiating, it's not contingent on anything. It doesn't need its light to fall on Earth. If we all blow ourselves up on this planet, on this rock, the sun will continue to radiate, because it's unconditional, ever-flowing, as it were. And in the same way then, all photons all in the system where we could think of it as energy, or some still like to think of matter, but energy, all photons are continually moving and continually bouncing. And there's no like, here was a packet of light that exploded in the Big Bang, and now there's a little light flying in every direction, and it's bouncing off of the walls and my face and into this camera and onto your computer screen and into your eyeballs, and it's electrons flowing through the electrical currents of your computer. And one day, all these dispersed photons will stop bouncing off of things and will land on whatever it is, this carpet, a cup, and will stop moving, and that will be the end of time. The photons will have found the place they're looking for. Maybe they will go, and then they will turn back, and there will be a big crunch. Perhaps.
What if I say, I get the radiance part? If you were God and you made radiance, I get that. What about the desire? So that would be a positive sense of desire, just general.
Right.
So the negative sense of desire, the sense of lack. If I'm questioning you as the creator, why would you do that? Right,
and so for me then the answer is that there's not a linear view of time. There's not a telos to the movement of photons. It's not that there is a final place that each of these photons is sort of looking towards or moving to, whereupon they will rest when they get there. Rather, it's ceaseless dancing that never stops. The music is never stopped. And in this way, desire itself, the neediness, the neediness itself is not an ontological state of need. There is no such thing as contingency. Everything is already perfect right now. And if you're feeling needy, if you're feeling the sensation arise, that will pass away, as we've all experienced. Maybe these things arise before. Maybe you're feeling one now, maybe you're not. These all...
What about birth? What about birth? Isn't that of necessity going to be a painful experience of creation? I mean, isn't there an evolution going on which requires that there be this sense of lack? Otherwise, there would be no reason to continue unfolding.
See, for me, there's no need for the universe to continue unfolding, because it's not unfolding. It's not in a linear way. It's massaging itself unconditionally. And if you're feeling desire, or you're feeling need, or you're feeling pain, that's because at this moment, that is the realization of exactly what needs to happen.
Right. So there's a need for pain, you're saying?
Well, it's not contingent and particular, or it is only insofar as it is necessary.
Okay, so you're saying it's not your pain.
And universal.
It's not particular, meaning it's not like when you feel pain and you're suffering, the mistake is to identify with the suffering and say, oh, that's mine, that's me, and I am suffering. Rather, the suffering is the necessity of the universe's current place and time.
The suffering belongs to the universe, in that sense?
Yeah.
Right, and that's why I said it's not, desire doesn't exist ontologically the same way I firmly have the understanding, at least at this place, that evil doesn't ontologically exist either.
Could you genuinely say everything's perfect out on the street in the cold, on a hungry stomach?
So, that is the critique, right, that tries to shoot the philosophy, the message, by shooting the messenger. But this realization is really a acceptance of the current circumstances. And if you watch something like Planet Earth, there's actually an image of a polar bear that, due to global warming, had to swim a farther distance due to the ice cap melting as much as it did before it got on land, whereupon it was so tired and so weak and hungry that when it got on land there were all these seals right next to it. And it tried to get one, right? And it was unable to wrestle the seal to eat it. And in the process it got wounded and it got punctured by one of the tusks of one of the male seals. walruses, I guess they were, and bleeding and hungry, it walked back onto the beach, whereupon the seals or the walruses came back to frolic next to it, only 20 feet away. And this polar bear stood there and looked at them, and looked at the sky, and looked out over the ocean. It had just spent so many hours coming in, and it died. And it's such a poignant and beautiful image, because there is a tactile sense of acceptance and appreciation and synchronicity even in that moment.